Today we're going to be replacing our garage door opener. We just moved. We have a bunch of garage doors that have openers that are either really old or just plain broken and need to be replaced. So we're going to take a look and install these openers. Let's get started. So what we got here, and I'll put a link in the description, is we're doing the Chamberlain half horsepower chain drive garage door opener. Basically the cheapest garage door opener at Home Depot. Alright, so open it up. Like I said, this is a pretty basic opener. It's got a great set of instructions to help you with all the stuff. So first thing we got to do is unhook the old opener. Usually it's just as easy as one bolt and two bolts on each side. You unplug everything, you disconnect any of the wiring up. The thing that's mounted to the wall is actually hinged, and I've never seen one where it's not hinged. So basically, once you've got everything unhooked on this end, you just slowly lower and lay it down on the ground, and then you can undo the bolt on that end to completely disconnect it. Oh, you also need to disconnect the door itself before you do that. So when you get to the point where you're going to get this loose to hinge down, you want to make sure you set your ladder up in such a way where you can walk it down, because it gets kind of heavy, and holding on to it with one hand while I'm doing it, you can get pretty tiring. You can also have someone just help you either support the weight or do the bolts, but just keep that in mind. I'm actually going to move my ladder a little bit to help me when I walk this down. Make sure you got a good handle on the weight. That one's loose now too. And you just slowly, usually if you can hold it with just one hand as you walk down, make sure you kind of keep it straight. And we can move our ladder. Okay, there's one important piece I left out before you unhook the garage door opener. While this does hinge down, usually it won't hinge all the way to the ground. The spring and support will be in the way. So you have to make sure, as you're walking it down, you could have a second ladder, or you could move the ladder you're walking down, depending on how agile you are, and rest the opener on the ladder or whatever. Okay, so up here is the header. What we want to do is take this part. One thing you can do to save yourself a little bit of time is you could leave the existing header bracket on if it's similar enough to your new bracket. Now, this is the new bracket. It's quite a bit different. I've had it to where I didn't have to replace this bracket, but since this doesn't really have the same hinge mechanism and doesn't really look like it works the same, we're going to take the bracket off and install the new bracket. Alright, at this point it's time to go with the manual. It gives us your step-by-step instructions. This one that has a box on the end, you need to pay attention to this one, and you really need to pay attention to whether it's upside down or not. Because one time I did get this all set up and I installed all the rails backwards and upside down. And it was very difficult. Once you snap these together, it is very difficult to unsnap them together. So make sure you're paying attention when you snap these together. Should be able to snap these together. Now, they're pretty heavy metal, but you kind of line them up, and there you can see there's some tabs here, and you just, the first one's easy. Anything or chip paint as you're sliding these together. And the way you line this up right is make sure that this piece is pointing back and lined up with the back of the trolley. And you can just slide that on. And you can use that little piece of metal, whatever, as a stop there. This one will be a little tricky though, because you've got a lot of rail back there, so you just kind of lift this up, and then you can kind of slide them together. So I wouldn't even try. This is another one of those, you don't have to tighten it like the Incredible Hulk, so if it slips a little, it's not a big deal. All its purpose is to stop that from going any farther. Slide it into this little window here. We're going to take this big fat bolt, thread it through the top, put our lock washer on the bottom here, and then our bolt underneath that. But you're just going to take this, take your chain and attach it there, take your cover, line it up there, and take your cotter pin. Instead of trying to go all the way from one side, start it in the middle like that. Once you got your cotter pin there, you might be able to get it with your thumb, but you can also use a screwdriver to kind of help you. Just kind of shove that on. The biggest thing is you want the chain to go in the little spreader here, engage with here, and you don't have to be crazy and try to get it as tight as possible at this point. Tightening will come later, but make sure it's seated and engaged on that sprocket. That way you'll be able to come over here and install it against here. And this is the mechanism that tightens the chain.
Now, this is a good time to have the socket, so you can use your ratchet, but I don't have mine with me, so I'm just going to use a regular wrench and tighten. Like I said, just let go for a second, that chain line up, just hold the end, and keep it from lining up a little bit. Don't worry, don't give it first time, you can later adjust it. Once you got it sliding up, you're going to take your chain nut, tighten up the lock washer, and then while you're tightening in place, like, don't worry, this is ever slightly.
Okay, I may or may not have just dropped this. It's okay, the chain loosened up a little bit. Hopefully I didn't break it. It doesn't look like it's broken, but we'll see what happens. What I was trying to do is, I actually remember what I did last time. I actually put the opener on my stool that's on casters, so that way when I move the rail around, it's able to navigate around on this. The reason it fell is because I was stupid and tried to balance it on the very edge of the door there, which was never going to work. So, tip from me, don't do that. I'm doing this. Slowly line this up. Once we've got it lined up. Alright, now we need to hang the opener, and this is one of those parts that can get kind of tricky. So it looks like this has been set up for an opener like this. Really, we won't know until I'm going to lift this up, and we're going to see if we can get the holes on these two pieces to line up. I'll keep her straight, and oh, we need to have this bracket come back farther. Alright, so there we go. We got both ends installed up here. Like I said, if you have a friend, you can have them help you with this. And my gosh, my ceiling is sagging. I don't know why. Actually, now we need to install the light bulb. Now you may not think this is important, but you will need a light bulb if you get any error codes because it blinks. Next we're going to hang the pull cord. This is pretty easy. You just kind of loop it on the end to get that red. A little higher if you need it to, or a little lower. Just depends on how much cord you want hanging down. We've got the door arm here. The door arm is going to attach down here. Like I said, you can see there's some holes there that'll kind of show you where it needs to be. And see, I've got 3 holes lined up, so I've got it pretty much perfect. The other side's going to use a pin to hold itself up there. You don't want it to be completely straight down, but you don't want it to be way out here. So somewhere kind of like right there is probably good. Now I need to set this to where I have 2 holes showing, and that is about where I need this to be. Oh, got my supervisors here. They're trying to see how work is progressing. They heard me drop the garage door opener and they were very concerned about that. Okay, we're nearly there. So we got our arm installed. We got the chain retightened. Now we just need to run our wiring. If you have a new enough opener that was already there, you may already have sensors down here. Now, I've installed these before and just reused the old sensors. Usually they wire right up. But in this case, since this door wasn't working anyway and one of these sensors is fallen off, I'm just going to replace these with new sensors. One thing you definitely want to do, even if you have an old opener, is to use the new opener, because I've seen it before where the old opener isn't compatible with the new one. So you'll want to just go ahead and replace it. And there we go. That side's pretty easy. There's a red and a white wire, and inside there's 2 screw terminals that say red and white, and then you just screw it into the wall. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I ended up doing here. So I basically took a bit of wire that was included, cut it, and then ran it to the piece that was too short, and then I'm going to put some electrical tape on those. Okay, here's another thing I wanted to show you that's kind of not exactly clear in the manual, is attaching these brackets. Kind of tricky to put on. Let me kind of show you. You're basically supposed to go and put this here and then get this to snap in place. You may also accidentally bend it in the process, so there we go. And it'll kind of be like that. And there's plenty of adjustments, so if they aren't exactly right, there's room to move the sensors later. What we're going to do is cut it off. We're going to strip that wire, and then we're going to take this, cut off the extra cable on this, and just splice them together. And there we go. We'll just cover that up with electrical tape, but I put the black on red and the white on white, so that way by the garage door opener I can wire them the same way. There we go. And we're good. Looks like our sensors might already be lined up. One kind of neat thing about this opener is that it automatically can adjust the force that it opens and closes. Older ones you had to like adjust 2 screws on the side, and you also had to adjust screws to set the travel, but this one auto detects everything. You want to also make sure that pull string is pulled so you can get the trolley lined up and have it latch to the door like that. Now I'm going to set the up position, which is the point that you want the door to be when it finishes opening. So I'll do that. Oh, there it goes. Now we got our single button door opener. It should be pre-programmed. Sure is. We can also test the stop mechanism. So, closing, and it stopped. Very important if you have kids, make sure that's set up right. Alright, and that's going to do it for today. So we were able to set up that garage door opener. Everything works great. And so this is just a good basic opener. It's not too loud. It doesn't take too long. It's very simply a garage door opener. It's nothing fancy, no Wi-Fi, no special features. It does what it's supposed to do. So that's why I like it. I'll put a link in the description of where I bought it, and hope you enjoyed. Thanks.